Hey everyone, it's me Holly, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving some advice to anyone who is sitting exams this year. So that could be GCSEs or A-level exams. I am a first year uni student, so I've done both of these and I feel like I've got some advice to give. I'm naturally quite an anxious person, so I feel like a video like this, I watched quite a few of them just to help me get prepared for what I needed to be doing. I feel like being prepared was my main thing to actually calming my nerves. Even though going into exams, I was obviously still nervous. Actually knowing what I was getting in for and knowing that I've put the work in and the revision time in, I felt a little bit better knowing that. So the first thing I want to say is you might be doing mock exams. Maybe you've already done some. I feel like you probably have. But I feel like it's very easy to get mock results back and see a grade that you might not be expecting, and feel disheartened by that and feel like, oh well, I literally don't have time, like I can't, especially if you've done your last set of mocks. I don't know what other people's schools were like, but I feel like I would have done my mocks by now. It's really easy to feel like that, but because that to you is, obviously a mock exam is the closest you can get to actually doing a real exam. So it's very easy to think, well, that grade is what I'm going to get on the real thing. But what I had to kind of remind myself, and when I went into A-levels, I kind of took this mindset into it, is that mock exams are your way to know what the exams are going to be like. And even if you didn't get a grade you were hoping for, at least that experience of doing an exam can help you when you actually sit the real ones. I know in GCSEs, I'd never done an exam in my life. Like, I'd never sat in an exam hall. I didn't know what numbers I had to put on the test. Like, it was the most confusing thing ever. And I hate when I don't know what I'm doing. If you've never experienced something, you aren't gonna know what you need to do, and you need to have practice with that. So I feel like mock exams are super important just to know what the kind of vibe is, like sitting in an exam hall, being quiet, listening to the invigilator. Just take those mock exams as just an opportunity to learn. Past papers are so important just to know how exam boards structure questions. I feel like, especially in my A-levels, and I wish I'd done it for my GCSEs, just looking through past paper questions and just seeing what they've asked in previous years, how they've asked the questions, what type of questions there are. Knowing what could come up is really important. I know for my A-levels, obviously it's easier to go through every single past paper question because you are only doing 3 to 4 subjects. So for psychology, I had gone through every single past paper that there has ever been, just to see what's been asked before, kind of predict what could come up, and learn how to structure the questions properly, because structuring questions is also a really crucial part of answering the question, especially if you've got essay-based subjects. Don't stress yourself out to read every single exam paper ever. I had enough time to be able to do that. Especially with GCSEs, you've got like however many subjects that you're doing. Was it like 9 subjects I did? I don't even know. There's just so many subjects that you need to be prepared for. As long as you've gone through maybe like a couple past papers for each subject, I feel like that can be really helpful. If you don't know how to access them, you can ask a teacher. But the main thing that I found was if I searched up my exam board and then wrote my subject and then past paper, it should come up. The next thing I want to talk about is how to know what to revise. I feel like, especially with GCSEs and having a lot to do, it can be very daunting just to sit down and think, okay, I need to do something today, but I don't know what. Revision timetable can be really good for that. Now, I do want to say I made so many revision timetables, and I will tell you now, didn't stick to a lot of them. So that is why I'm going to be sharing different options. I know some people can really thrive on a revision timetable, but personally, I would kind of feel a bit down if I hadn't achieved what I wanted to by the end of the day. So I kind of ended up doing a to-do list every single day that I knew I'd have enough time to do something. So for example, if I say it was a Tuesday and I knew I had piano in the evening after school, after a long day at school, I've got piano in the evening, I would realistically think to myself, will I want to do a lot of revision tonight? And the answer is no. So what I would do is I just write down on my whiteboard back there, or you can do it on like post-it notes. I've got these really fun post-it notes. I'll just write down a to-do list and just put flashcards, 10 minutes flashcards at the end of the day, because even just doing flashcards for like 10 minutes each day, that can be really crucial in your memory and actually retaining the knowledge. So don't feel disheartened if you aren't able to sit down and crank out 5 past papers, 10 flashcards. Like, be realistic in what you want to do. And I feel like that will help you as well with your mental health, because you know, you don't want to set unrealistic standards for yourself and not be able to achieve them and feel down about it. If you set realistic challenges and like things that you know that you could do, it's always good to push yourself and obviously aim for things. But I also think, you know, be realistic with what you want to do. Obviously, I mentioned revision timetables. So personally, I did a lot of to-do lists, but I'll put an example of a revision timetable up here. I did it a few times. I think for my GCSEs, I was better at sticking to them. Definitely not my A-levels. But how I did write my revision timetables was I would obviously block out any times which I thought I was going to be doing something, which is obviously during the school day. And in the evening, I'd give myself, you know, I'd schedule in maybe science, give myself a break. So I'd block out for a break. And then I'd do maybe maths. So that's how I would do it. I'd make sure that I've blocked out some breaks so you're not consistently revising, because that does not help anyone. Breaks are super important when it comes to revision. My favourite technique is a Pomodoro technique, which is where you do 20 minutes and then a 5-minute break, 20 minutes, 5-minute break. You can do 30 minutes, 10 minutes break. Like, you can change them up. I know there's loads of links on YouTube. So if you just search up this word, it should come up with some timers to help you with that. But that technique really helped me to regulate my revision time. I feel like else I wouldn't really be thinking about breaks, and I'd just be, you know, it's so easy to get locked in and be doing it and continuous. And sometimes that's really good. I know with writing essays, that's really important to be able to lock in like that. Especially with uni work, I tend to have loads of time where I'm not doing anything, and then randomly I'll get some motivation and just put my all into it and just spend hours. But breaks are super important just to make sure that you're not burning yourself out, because that's a huge thing that can happen with exam season. I'm just going to write that on my iPad to talk about in a minute. I know a lot of people say this, but going on a walk can be really useful. I hate it when people are like, you gotta go on a walk. Like, that really helps your mental health. But when I was in GCSEs and I had my study leave, I don't know if many schools do it now. I feel like a lot of schools don't anymore, which is kind of weird to me because it was really important for me to have a study leave. But anyway, when I had my study leave, obviously I was in my house a lot of the time, you know, in between exams, and I was at home with my dog, my dog Teddy, and obviously he wants to go for a walk. So that kind of got me out of the house and actually on a walk. And I thought to myself, like, this is a good way to like regulate myself and not be doing too much, because I was just in the house all the time doing my revision, and it just probably wouldn't have been as useful if I hadn't have been taking those breaks. When it comes to breaks as well, schedule in something that you really want to do. I sometimes did it where if there was an episode of a show that I was watching and it was like a half-an-hour episode, I would say, okay, I'm going to do my science work, then I'm going to go into the front room, watch 30-minute program, then I'm going to go back and do the rest. That can be dangerous though. There are a few times when I've been watching a show and I've really been locked in, and I've started the next episode and been like, oh wait, I have actually been meaning to revise. But I think, you know, it can happen. I think it is important to have that reward at the end of your studying, you know, something that you can look forward to, and those goals for yourself, because it will feel like a positive reinforcement, like you're getting something out of doing your revision. Because a lot of the time revision can just be a solo thing where you just feel like you're just doing it, but for what? Like, you're not gaining anything from it. Obviously, knowledge, you are gaining knowledge, but it can feel like a lot of the time you're just doing it, and it's just because you have to. and it can be very like boring as well. But yeah, just having those little goals, really useful. So obviously I've mentioned a revision timetable, but you might be thinking, how will I know what I need to revise and what's the most important thing? Here we are, guys. a rag sheet. That makes no sense. A red, amber, green sheet. We did these in my secondary school. Make sure that we were revising the things that we weren't as confident in. So how these work is you've got to write out all of your subjects, so you know, science, maths, English, whatever, write all the subjects out and then do a red, amber or green depending on how confident you feel on them, and be completely honest. You can do this in your own, you don't have to do this with friends or anything, just do this on your own and just be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anyone that you're struggling with things, just admitting that to yourself will be really useful. So I was never good at science. I would always just put red because I just couldn't do it. But what that meant was that I could, when I'm making my revision timetable, I would schedule in maybe 2 more science revision sessions compared to a subject I was more confident in. For A-levels, I actually only had psychology exams in the exam period, but I did have health and social and childcare exams in January, and I can't remember when else, but I had them different times. So that did help me kind of regulate what I needed to do. Each subject, if you get the specification up online, you can search up like AQA, psychology specification, or whatever your exam board is, whatever your subject is, search specification and you'll get all of your topics listed, and just go through and say, this one, not very confident in. So you'd go red, this one, yeah, I'm confident, green. So just go through and just see what you need to be focusing on, because there can be different areas. For history, we obviously did like different papers, so like Germany, Anglo-Saxon, superpowers. So there's obviously varied things in one subject. It's not just one thing. So you can find a subject really enjoyable, but also have parts of it that you just don't get. So just make sure that you're going through and making sure you're not forgetting about something that you actually don't understand too much, but because it's a subject that you like, you don't actually think about that. So yeah, just make sure you're going through and double checking. I feel like that's a really useful exercise to do now when you're not in the height of stress and anxiety, because it's I would say it's quite a long process to go through and see what you need to be doing. But if you've done that already, it will just help you be able to see, okay, they're the subjects I need to focus on the most. That's what I'm okay with, but there might just be a few areas to work on. Also, I'd say criticism from teachers, like, you know, even better ifs. I don't know if anyone else's school did that, but like any improvements that they give to your exams, you know, they get the red pen out, they do a little cross, and you're just thinking, well, I give up. It's so easy to do that. I know I hate looking at criticism. It's just something in me where it's just like, it feels personal. Like, although it's my work and it's, you know, my knowledge, I just feel like it's just such a personal attack whenever I get criticism. Still now, when I'm looking at my uni works, like improvements that I need to do, I'm just like, I don't want to look at that right now. And I literally did a seminar the other day on feedback and how to deal with that, because it can just be really disheartening and I don't like it. But what I learned from my seminar is that it's not personal. It's just the teachers need to tell you what to improve on to help you, and it's not a personal attack on your personality, who you are as an individual. It's just your work and what they want to kind of improve from you. It can feel really personal and I completely understand that, but what I would do is, if you get a mock exam back and you see a grade you're not expecting, or you get the grade you wanted but you see like a really embarrassing answer that you did and you just feel so like humbled by it, which happened too many times for me, I would do is, you know, you can give it a couple days, you know, if you don't want to look at it yet, you know, allow yourself to just prepare to finally be like, okay, do you know what, it's time, I'm gonna look at that now. My least favourite thing ever was when we had to do improvements in class. That really annoyed me because I literally wasn't ready to do that. I didn't want to look at it yet. I just wanted to sit with that information for a little while. It is important to just check through, and the teachers will be giving you advice that would be useful. I know that there was so many times I'd get feedback for something and I'd be like, wait, hold on, I need to actually remember that. And those things that I got feedback for were the things that I remembered the most when it came to my exams. You know, if I'd got the completely wrong idea of what something was and a teacher had corrected that, I'm more likely to remember that than if I, you know, kind of got the idea of it but the teacher never picked up on it, and you know, I'm just left with this kind of vague idea. It's much better when a teacher just goes, this is actually what the answer is, this is what you need to do. So, you know, feedback can be really useful and actually helpful for your memory, because you're more likely to remember that experience of someone telling you that you've done something wrong than if they didn't. So burnout, I'm just going to quickly talk about that. Burnout is when you just feel completely exhausted and that you can't do anything else. You're just really struggling to keep up and continue the motivation. It can happen to literally anyone, even if you're someone who's really academically, you know, gifted, like really great, always motivated, you know, always locked in, but then all of a sudden you can just not be into it anymore and just be completely zoned out, not motivated at all. Like, it's so easy to happen, and it can be really annoying because it's just like, why can't I focus like I used to focus? It's just not on. But that is because you've pushed yourself too hard. If you're not giving yourself enough breaks, or even just like the whole time at school and sixth form, just the whole experience can just be exhausting, and that's completely understandable. If you do find yourself feeling exhausted and not the best, take some time to focus on things that you want to do, not exam stuff. I know it can be very hard to do that because you're constantly going to be thinking, what do I need to do now? What exam stuff do I need to do now? What revision should I be doing right now? I always felt like that. I always felt like I wasn't doing enough, which led to me feeling burnt out quite a lot of the time. But if you are able to, I know it's hard, but maybe just spend an extra half an hour watching the show you want to watch, reading if you like reading. Just do something that you want to do, not what you have to do. If there's a subject that you really enjoy, I know a lot of people have that one thing that they just really love and kind of see that as their escape or as their easy subject to kind of just like, if they are, for example, if you are feeling a little bit like unmotivated one day, but you do want to revise, I'd suggest maybe putting that favourite subject as the first thing that you do that day to kind of ease you back into doing it, and then just doing like flashcards for your other subjects, something that is easy on the brain. Another thing I wrote down on here is to keep your hobbies. I know it's really easy to stop doing the things that you usually do because you want to focus completely on exams. I was the worst at that. I would just be like, sorry, I can't do that, I need to be focusing on my exams. And using exams as an excuse, actually. I always used exams as an excuse to not keep up the things that I actually wanted to do, or that I was a little bit nervous to do, but anything that caused me stress, I would prevent. I'll be like, no, sorry, I can't do that. I can't do that because I've got exams. But the most important thing is just to keep your hobbies. I always loved piano, continuously played that throughout my exam period. Anything that brings you joy, stick to that and make time for it. I know it's really difficult because you've got to revise, but just, you know, seeing that as a priority as well to make you feel good. Mental health is so crucial for your exams. Like, if you're not feeling good, you're not going to be performing your best. So yeah, it's really hard to find a perfect balance. I just don't think it's possible. But you can still, you know, help regulate your emotions by doing something that you enjoy. I'm just going to quickly talk to you about how I revised for my exams. So main thing I did, flashcards. I love a flashcard. I'm still making them now for uni because it's just an easy way to practice what you know. Even now at uni, I'm writing myself flashcards for every topic that I'm doing, because when it comes to revising, it also feels easier to do if you don't have to sit down and answer so many questions. You know, an exam paper, they are really useful, and I will get onto them in a minute, but that can seem like a huge thing that you need to spend so much time and effort doing. But a flashcard, that can just be really quick and easy, like a 10-minute a day. Just like I would say easier way to revise, but it's not easy, it's just quicker. But what I will say is you can't just do flashcards on their own. I feel like you need to have for your memory, to optimize your memory, let's get psychological right now. To optimize your memory, flashcards are a good way for question and recall stuff. So that's going to be really transferring that knowledge into your long-term memory. So that's why it's important. But also, you need to have your technique to learn it in the first place, which, might be your teachers. That's really good resources, and you can look back through their slides or look at any resources they put online. That can be a way to learn. I can grab my finger. That can be a way to learn. You can also, you might like textbooks. I was never into textbooks. I can't read that much information, unfortunately. But if you do like a textbook, I know a lot of people say don't just look at a textbook and read it, because it will go in and out. You won't remember it, which can be true. But you can use a textbook if you're using it alongside a resource like a flashcard. So if you've got a page in a textbook, you can maybe read it all and then ask yourself questions and make flashcards using those questions that you've got from the book. So if you're utilizing the textbook, that can be useful. Exam past paper questions is a good way to test your knowledge. So obviously we've got a way to learn, we've got a way to recall and practice, and now we've got a way to test the knowledge. So I feel like it's really good to have these revision techniques that have different purposes, because that will really help with your memory. And actually testing your knowledge is one of the best. I just can't talk about past papers enough. They are just too good. They can't be done as consistently as a flashcard would, but if you maybe just at the end of a week choose one of your subjects to do a past paper in, and by the time you get to your exam season, especially if you start that now, you would have done quite a substantial amount of past paper questions. Even if you can't do a full past paper, just going online and seeing any past questions, you can pick 5 questions to do. That can be really useful. The reason I love past papers so much is that you're obviously practicing how to structure and write your answers. You know how much things are going to be worth, so how many marks you can get, and you can look at the mark scheme. The mark scheme's perfect because you can see how harsh invigilators can be. Invigilators? Is that what they're called? Examinators? No, that's not the word. I don't know. You can see how harsh the markers are. You can see how they've maybe marked people up or down in previous years. You could answer a question and feel like you've given significant amount of detail, but then you could get into the past paper and see that they've kind of said you needed to add an extra point in, which you hadn't even thought to do. You might see 4 marks and think, okay, I'll write 1 point down and then explain it for another 3 marks. But then you could get to the past paper mark scheme and see that they actually wanted 2 points and then 2 explanations. So stuff like that, you can find a lot out from a mark scheme. I feel like a really important thing to be doing now for your exams is just to practice your skills and learn what works best for you. What I say might not work. You might not like flashcards. They might not be useful to you. You might like something else. You might like, a really good resource for science was Cognito. That was an online resource where they asked you questions and stuff like that, and was quite an interactive website for science stuff. So just maybe going online, searching up your subject and seeing if there is any online resources, some interactive games, stuff like that. Making your revision fun is also really great. For GCSEs, it's so silly, but I would make storyboards for the events. I had storyboards for each event just because I got to draw. That was really fun. I can't draw, but it was just fun to make the little characters. I mean, I did drawings of Harold Godwinson, I did fact files. Those things where you write about them, or top trump cards of the people. Making it fun and memorable is so useful. I just love doing my storyboards. I love any YouTube video that does a little song. Those ones where it's adaptation, changes in the body to fit a location. That was a science one. Literally listened to it in year 7. Still got it in my head today. Oh my god. Wait, hold on. pause, hold on. My year 8 science teacher said to me, independent means to change, dependent means to measure, control means to stay the same, remember there's no pressure. She would always say that, right? And when she said it, I thought, girl, I'm not remembering that. I'm literally not remember that. I still use it to this day. I do psychology, which is a science, so we have independent and dependent measures. I still sing it in my head. So yeah, just finding a fun, easy way to remember something can be really useful as well. But like, I've given you some knowledge on how to prepare for your exams. Hopefully this has been useful, and yes, I'm wishing you all the best. If you have any questions on revision stuff, you know, anything like that, please feel free to comment. I will happily give you any advice that you need. And yeah, if you are wondering, the subjects that I took for A-level was psychology, health and social, and child development. So if you need specific advice for them, let me know. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!